The night sky above Montana blazed with an unusual light. At first, the few witnesses thought it was just another shooting star, but its descent was too controlled, too deliberate. The object cut through the atmosphere, trailing blue flames and leaving a glittering path across the starlit sky. Sheriff Robert Baker was finishing his late-night patrol when the emergency calls started flooding in. "Something's falling from the sky," they said. "It's heading towards Old Pine Forest." He turned his patrol car towards the forest, watching as the object descended lower and lower. The crash wasn't as violent as he expected. Instead of a devastating explosion, there was a series of smaller impacts, like something trying to slow its fall. Still, when the object finally hit the ground, it shook the earth enough to make the trees sway. Through his radio, Robert could hear the local fire department and emergency services mobilizing. "Approach with caution," he advised them. "We don't know what we're dealing with." As he got closer to the crash site, his headlights caught glimpses of scattered debris. Small pieces of metal unlike anything he'd seen before littered the forest floor. They seemed to pulse with a faint, bluish light. The object, now clearly some kind of small spacecraft, had carved a path through the trees before coming to rest in a small clearing. Steam rose from its silvery surface, and parts of its hull were still glowing red from the heat of re-entry. It was barely larger than a car, with smooth lines that reminded Robert of a teardrop. "This is Sheriff Baker," he reported into his radio. "We've got what appears to be... well, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. Just get here fast." He approached carefully, his flashlight beam revealing more details of the craft. That's when he heard it, a sound that made his heart skip a beat. It was crying. Not human crying, but something close enough to make his paternal instincts kick in. The sound was musical almost, like wind chimes in distress. A section of the craft's hull had partially split open, and through the gap, he saw movement. Something was trying to get out. Robert moved closer, his training warring with his instinct to help. "Hello," he called out. "Can you understand me?" The crying paused briefly, replaced by a series of soft, musical tones. Then, slowly, a figure emerged from the wreckage. Robert's flashlight revealed what appeared to be a young girl, but definitely not human. Her skin had a subtle, silvery sheen that seemed to ripple with faint colors, like the surface of a soap bubble. Her eyes were large and entirely purple, with no visible pupils. She looked injured, with what appeared to be bruises showing up as darker patches on her iridescent skin. When she saw Robert, she froze. Her eyes widened even further, and she began trembling. She tried to retreat back into the wreckage, but stumbled, clearly hurt. "Easy there," Robert said softly, lowering his flashlight to seem less threatening. "I'm not going to hurt you." In the distance, sirens were getting closer. The girl's head snapped toward the sound, and her trembling increased. She made a series of musical sounds that somehow managed to convey pure terror. That's when something else caught Robert's attention. His radio crackled with an unusual transmission. It wasn't the usual emergency channels. This was something else entirely. Through the static, he could make out alien voices speaking what sounded like English. "Maintain distance from the primitive planet. The fugitive is not worth the diplomatic complications." "Agreed. Mark the coordinates as restricted. The carnivorous species below will likely solve our problem for us." Robert looked at the terrified girl, then back at his radio. His jaw set firmly as he made his decision. "Not on my watch," he muttered. He took off his jacket and slowly approached the injured alien girl. "I don't know what you're running from," he said gently, "but you found the right place. We'll help you." The girl didn't understand his words, but something in his tone must have reached her. As he carefully draped his jacket around her shoulders, her trembling lessened slightly. Above them, invisible ships were already leaving orbit, abandoning her to what they assumed would be a terrible fate among the primitive carnivorous humans. They couldn't have been more wrong. The small county hospital had never been this busy at midnight. Doctors, nurses, and emergency staff hurried through the corridors, their whispered conversations creating a constant buzz of excitement and concern. In the middle of it all, Mary Thompson, the head nurse of 20 years, watched as they prepared a special room for their unusual patient. "Remember," she told her staff, "she's just a scared girl who needs our help. Doesn't matter if she's from another planet." The alien girl lay curled up on the hospital bed, still wrapped in Sheriff Robert's jacket. Her silvery skin flickered with waves of dark colors, blues and purples that the medical staff quickly realized reflected her emotional state. Right now, those colors showed nothing but fear. Every time a doctor approached with an instrument, she would press herself further against the wall. Her musical voice would rise in panic, making sounds that needed no translation to be understood as pleas to stay away. "This isn't working," Dr. Harris said, running his hand through his gray hair. "We need to check her injuries, but we can't if she won't let us near her." Mary watched the girl's eyes dart around the room, following every movement. She noticed how the alien particularly focused on their mouths when they spoke, and how she seemed to flinch at the sight of their teeth. "I think I know what's wrong," Mary said quietly. "She's afraid we're going to eat her." The realization hit everyone in the room. The alien radio transmission Sheriff Robert had reported suddenly made more sense. The carnivorous species comment wasn't just an insult. It was what their visitor had been taught about humans. Mary thought for a moment, then walked to the break room. She returned with a bowl of fresh fruit from the staff kitchen. Slowly, making her movements obvious, she sat in a chair near the bed and began to eat an apple. The alien girl watched with intense curiosity. Her colors shifted slightly, dark purples giving way to lighter blues. Mary took another apple from the bowl and held it out, letting the girl see it clearly before placing it on the bed near her. After several long minutes, the alien girl reached for the apple. She examined it carefully, then mimicked Mary's eating motions. Her eyes widened as she tasted it, and for the first time, her skin rippled with warm golden colors. "Well done, Mary," Dr. Harris whispered. Building on this small success, Mary began a careful dance of show and tell. She demonstrated the use of each medical instrument on herself first, making exaggerated faces of comfort and calm. Gradually, the girl's colors shifted from fearful purples to more curious blues. The breakthrough came when they needed to treat a cut on her arm. Mary deliberately pricked her own finger with a sterile needle, then placed a bandage on it, smiling the whole time. The alien girl watched intently, then slowly extended her injured arm. As they worked, they discovered that her blood was silvery, like liquid mercury, but it clotted just like human blood. Her bone structure, visible in the X-rays they finally managed to take, was lighter than human bones, but surprisingly similar in arrangement. "Look at this," Dr. Harris said, pointing to the X-ray. "She's so much like us, just adapted differently." By morning, the alien girl had allowed them to treat her injuries and had even fallen asleep, her skin glowing with soft, peaceful shades of blue and gold. Mary sat watching her, thinking about how fear could make anyone see monsters where there were none. Outside the hospital, reporters were gathering, and government vehicles were starting to arrive. But inside this quiet room, something remarkable had happened. Two species had found common ground through nothing more than kindness and patience. Sheriff Robert stopped by before ending his shift. "How is she?" he asked Mary. "Scared, hurt, but healing," Mary replied. She just needed to see that the big bad carnivores aren't so bad after all. As if responding to their voices, the alien girl stirred in her sleep, her colors shifting briefly before settling back into peaceful hues. Whatever she was running from, whatever had brought her to Earth, she had found something rare here. People who would protect her, not because of what she was, but because she needed help. And that, Mary thought, was the most human thing of all. Dr. Tom Wilson arrived at the hospital carrying a whiteboard, several markers, and a tablet filled with pictures. After 30 years of studying languages, this was the challenge of his lifetime, trying to communicate with someone from another world. The alien girl sat cross-legged on her hospital bed, watching him with curious purple eyes. Her skin shimmered with interested blues and greens, a good sign according to Nurse Mary's notes about her color patterns. "Hello," Tom said softly, setting up his whiteboard. "Let's figure out how to talk to each other." He started simple, drawing a stick figure of himself and pointing to his chest. "Tom," he said clearly. Then he drew a simple sun, a tree, and a house. He pointed to each drawing and said the word slowly. The alien girl watched intently. After a few moments, she reached for a marker. Her hand moved gracefully across the board, creating symbols that seemed to flow like water. She pointed to them and made a series of musical sounds. "Writing," Tom exclaimed excitedly. "You have writing." Hour by hour, they built a simple language together. The alien girl was incredibly smart, quickly matching Earth words to her own symbols. By afternoon, they had created a basic dictionary of nearly 50 words. Then came the breakthrough. Tom drew a simple picture of her spacecraft crashing, followed by a question mark. The girl's colors immediately darkened to deep purples and grays. Her hands trembled as she took the marker. She drew a beautiful world with 2 moons. Then she drew scary-looking ships appearing in the sky. Her next pictures showed fighting, people running, and finally herself escaping in a small ship. "Your home was attacked," Tom asked gently, pointing to the drawings. She nodded, a human gesture she had already picked up. Then she drew more ships, different from the attacking ones. These new ships had symbols that looked like peace signs, but when she drew herself asking them for help, she crossed out the pictures with angry lines. "They refused to help you," Tom said, understanding filling his voice. "The peaceful ones turned you away." The alien girl's colors swirled with dark blues and grays. She drew more ships, each different, each crossed out. Then she drew Earth, and beside it, she drew human figures. Instead of crossing them out, she drew a circle around them and added a bright star above. Tom felt his throat tighten with emotion. "We're the only ones who helped," he said quietly. She nodded again, then carefully wrote the Earth word safe in her flowing script. Just then, Sheriff Robert entered the room. "Dr. Wilson, we've got a situation." He showed them his phone. News channels worldwide were reporting strange signals coming from space. People were picking up alien broadcasts, all asking the same thing. Had anyone seen a fugitive spacecraft? The alien girl's colors paled to almost white when she saw the images on the screen. Her hand shook as she drew new pictures, the attacking ships again, but this time approaching Earth. "They're coming here?" Tom asked, pointing to the drawing. She nodded, then quickly drew more. She showed the attackers hurting humans, drawn with sad faces. Then she stood up, pointing to herself and then to the door. "No," Tom said firmly, understanding her intention to leave to protect them. "You're not going anywhere." Sheriff Robert stepped forward. "He's right. We don't abandon people who need help. That's not what humans do." The alien girl looked between them, her colors shifting rapidly between fear and hope. Tom handed her the marker again. On the whiteboard, she slowly wrote in careful English letters, "Why help me?" Tom smiled and wrote the simple answer, "Because it's right." Her colors bloomed into bright gold, and for the first time, they heard what sounded like laughter, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Outside the hospital window, the evening sky was growing dark. Somewhere up there, hostile ships were coming. But they would find something they didn't expect. A planet of so-called primitives who had already decided that this girl was under their protection. And humans could be very protective indeed. The military command center buzzed with activity. Radar screens showed 3 large objects entering Earth's solar system, moving fast. General James watched the displays with a grim expression. In just 6 hours, the alien ships had crossed the distance from Jupiter to Mars. "They're not even trying to hide," he muttered, studying the data. "They want us to see them coming." Back at the hospital, the alien girl, who they now called Star because of the way her skin sparkled, was drawing frantically on Dr. Tom's whiteboard. Her pictures showed the attacking ship's weapons, their shields, and their typical attack patterns. "They're hunters," Tom translated for the others. "They'd done this before. Star says they attack from high orbit first, targeting military bases and communication centers." Sheriff Robert watched as Star's colors shifted to deep, worried purples. "Can our weapons even hurt their ships?" Star drew Earth's missiles, hitting an alien shield, then drew a small crack in it. Next to it, she drew many missiles hitting together, making a bigger crack. The message was clear. Earth's weapons could work, but only with concentrated fire. Suddenly, every phone in the room buzzed at once. Emergency alerts flashed across their screens. "Unknown vessels approaching Earth. This is not a drill. All citizens, shelter." The alien ships were broadcasting a message now, playing on every radio frequency. "Primitive species, you harbor a fugitive from justice. Surrender the criminal, and we will spare your world from demonstration of our power. You have 6 Earth hours to comply." Star's hands shook as she wrote on the whiteboard. "I should go. Save Earth." Nurse Mary, who hadn't left Star's side since she arrived, put her arm around the alien girl. "Not happening, sweetheart." General James's voice came through on Robert's radio. "Sheriff, we're moving the girl. Can't risk keeping her in one place." Within minutes, black military vehicles pulled up outside the hospital. But as they prepared to move Star, her colors suddenly flashed bright red, a color they'd never seen before. She pointed urgently at the window. High above, a tiny dot of light appeared in the evening sky. Then another, and another. "They're sending down scout ships," Tom translated as Star drew quickly, looking for her energy signature. Her species naturally gives off a unique radiation. That's how they track them. "The cars aren't safe then," Robert realized. "They'll spot her right away in those." Mary looked at her phone, then smiled. "I have an idea. My brother's got an old storm cellar lined with lead from the Cold War days. He was that kind of paranoid. Lead blocks radiation, right?" Star's colors brightened with hope as she nodded enthusiastically. They moved fast. Robert drove his police car in one direction as a decoy. The military vehicles went another way, and in a beat-up old pickup truck, Mary drove Star to the outskirts of town, where an old farmhouse stood dark against the darkening sky. The storm cellar was cold and dusty, but Star's glowing skin provided plenty of light. As they hurried down the stairs, they could hear the high-pitched whine of alien scout ships passing overhead. "Now what?" Tom asked, looking at the others in the dim, silvery light from Star's skin. Through the small cellar window, they could see more ships entering the atmosphere, their hulls glowing red with heat. Star wrote on a small notepad, "More coming. Big ships soon." Robert checked his radio. The military was mobilizing worldwide. Every nation was preparing for a fight, moving missiles into position. For the first time in history, the whole world was uniting against a common threat. In the cellar, Star drew one more picture. It showed the hunting ships firing on Earth, but behind them, she drew more ships, different ones, with the peace symbols. She pointed to them, then wrote, "Maybe see human strong. Maybe help then. So if we stand up to these bullies," Mary said slowly, "the others might finally step up too." Star nodded, her colors swirling with a mix of hope and fear. Above them, the alien scout ships continued their search pattern, hunting for one frightened refugee. Instead, they were about to find something much more dangerous, a planet full of humans who had decided to protect their own. And nobody who knew human history would bet against those odds. The United Nations emergency session was unlike any in history. On screens around the world, representatives from every country sat ready to make the most important decision Earth had ever faced. Above their heads, 3 massive alien warships hung in low orbit, visible even in daylight as dark spots against the sky. The emergency broadcast system carried the aliens' final message to every device on Earth. Your time is up. Deliver the fugitive, or we begin our demonstration. Inside the lead UN chamber, the Secretary General stood tall. We have a simple choice before us. Give up an innocent refugee to save ourselves, or stand together and face whatever comes. He paused, looking at the assembled faces. We vote now. One by one, the countries cast their votes. China, Russia, the United States, Britain, every nation, large and small. As the votes appeared on the main screen, something remarkable happened. The vote was unanimous. Earth would not surrender. Star. Back in the storm cellar, Star watched the news on a small tablet. Her colors shifted to a deep gold when Tom translated the decision. She wrote quickly on her notepad, "Why risk everything for one alien?" Mary smiled, adjusting the blanket around Star's shoulders. Because if we give up what's right to save ourselves, we're not really saving anything worth keeping. Suddenly, their radio crackled. It was General James. They're powering up weapons. All positions, prepare for. The message cut off as the first attack began. The alien ships fired brilliant purple beams that lit up the sky. But Earth was ready. As soon as the beams started, every major military installation launched their missiles. Thousands of rockets streaked upward from hidden silos, submarines, and mobile launchers. Just as Star had drawn, the alien shields flickered under the combined assault. They hadn't expected such coordination from a primitive species. Star's colors pulsed with excitement as she watched through the cellar window. She drew quickly on her notepad, showing that the alien ships had to drop their shields briefly to fire their main weapons. Tom immediately radioed this information to command. The next wave of missiles was timed perfectly. As one alien ship lowered its shields to fire, 50 missiles struck its hull. The explosion lit up the sky like a second sun. The remaining ships pulled back to higher orbit, but Earth wasn't finished. Chinese space-based lasers, American orbital platforms, and Russian depth charges launched from underwater all struck together. The aliens' superior technology meant nothing against the combined might of an entire planet fighting as one. More ships coming. Star wrote urgently, her colors flashing morning reds. Everyone's heart sank, expecting reinforcements for the attackers. But these new ships were different. Their designs matched the peaceful ones from Star's earlier drawings. They descended through the atmosphere, positioning themselves between Earth and the attacking vessels. A new message broadcast across Earth's communications. This primitive world has shown itself to be more advanced than many spacefaring races. They understand what others forgot, that true civilization is measured by how it treats those in need. We will no longer stand idle. The hunting ships, now outnumbered and damaged, began to retreat. As they fled, chased by Earth's missiles and the peacekeeper ships, cheers erupted from every city on the planet. In the storm cellar, Star's colors erupted in bright, joyful patterns they had never seen before. She hugged each of her human protectors, her skin glowing like a rainbow. "What happens now?" Robert asked, watching the light show in the sky. Star wrote on her notepad, "Earth proved something. Changed everything. Not primitive. Most advanced in best way." Mary wiped happy tears from her eyes. "And you're stuck with us now, young lady. No more running." Star drew a simple picture. The Earth, with a small star next to it, enclosed in a heart. Above them, the peaceful alien ships began landing in designated areas around the globe. Earth's first official contact with alien civilizations would be as equals, not as primitives. Because when it mattered most, humanity had proven that true advancement wasn't measured by technology, but by the strength of one's principles. And in that measure, Earth had just become the most advanced planet in the galaxy. 2 weeks after the Battle of Earth, the town's small community center hosted an unusual meeting. Representatives from the Peaceful Alien Alliance sat at a long table, facing Earth's military and political leaders. Star sat between Mary and Tom, her colors steady and calm as she prepared to share her full story. The alien translator, a tall being with crystalline skin, helped turn Star's musical language into words everyone could understand. For the first time, humans heard the complete truth about their place in the galaxy. My people, Star's translated voice rang clear, were known as the Luminary. We were scholars, artists, and scientists. For 10,000 years, we explored the stars without weapons, seeking only knowledge. She continued, her colors darkening as she spoke. Then the Dominion found us. They believed that any species unwilling to fight didn't deserve to exist. They called it purifying the galaxy of weakness. The alien translator's own crystalline form dimmed slightly. Many of us knew this was happening. We had the power to stop it, but we had complex treaties, trade agreements. We chose to look away. General James leaned forward. But why target Earth? We're not even spacefaring yet. Star's colors shifted to brighter hues. That's exactly why. Earth was marked as primitive, dangerous, a violent carnivorous species barely out of its stone age. The Dominion never suspected you would protect me. They thought you would either kill me or hand me over immediately. They clearly never watched any of our movies, Sheriff Robert muttered, earning a few chuckles. The translator continued Star's explanation. When Earth not only protected her but fought back successfully, it shattered centuries of excuses. How could we claim to be advanced civilizations while a primitive world showed more courage and moral clarity than all of us combined? Mary reached over and squeezed Star's hand. The alien girl's skin sparkled with affection. There's more, Star continued through the translator. The Dominion's attack on my people wasn't random. They feared us because we had discovered something. Her colors shifted to deep, serious blues. We found proof that humans are far older than anyone suspected. Your species once traveled the stars. The room fell silent. Ancient records show humanity had reached the stars long ago, but chose to return to Earth and start over. They believed something was missing in their development, some crucial understanding they needed to find naturally. Tom's eyes widened. Are you saying we deliberately went back to begin again? Star nodded, her colors rippling with excitement. Your myths of lost civilizations, sunken continents, they're echoes of truth. Humanity chose to rebuild itself from scratch, believing that only by developing naturally could you become the species you were meant to be. And what species is that? General James asked quietly. The translator's crystalline form glowed brightly. One that would fight to protect a stranger, simply because it was right. One that would risk everything to shelter a refugee. One that could unite an entire planet in a day to stand against injustice. Star's colors became brilliant gold as she added, the Dominion feared my people because we knew the truth about Earth. They feared that when humanity finally returned to the stars, you would remember who you really are. The room buzzed with conversation as people tried to process this revelation. But Mary just smiled and patted Star's hand. Doesn't matter if we were spacemen before or not. What matters is who we are now. Star wrote something on her notepad and showed it to the room. I thought I was running away from death. Instead, I was running toward hope, running home. The translator looked at the assembled humans. The galaxy is changing because of what happened here. The peaceful worlds are finally taking a stand. The Dominion is facing resistance everywhere, and it all started because a small town in Montana decided to help a scared alien girl. Outside the community center, the evening sky was filled with stars, stars that no longer seemed quite so far away. Humanity had taken its first steps back into the galactic community, not through technology or power, but through simple kindness. And that, it turned out, was the most advanced technology of all. 5 years after the day a strange object fell from Montana's sky, the town had changed in ways nobody could have imagined. The old Miller farm on the outskirts had become Earth's first alien refugee settlement, its fields now growing both Earth crops and strange, glowing plants from distant worlds. Star stood in these fields, her skin shimmering with happy golds and blues, as she taught a group of human children how to tend to luminous flowers that followed the movements of their hands. She had grown taller over the years, but her gentle nature remained the same. "The plants can feel your kindness," she explained, her English now perfect though still musical. "Just like my people, they respond to emotions." Nurse Mary watched from the porch of the main building, smiling at how naturally the human children played with the alien ones. There were 30 refugee families living here now, from 12 different species. Each had their own story of escape from the Dominion, and each had found sanctuary on the planet that the galaxy once called primitive. Sheriff Robert's police car pulled up the dusty driveway. "Got the latest report from the UN," he called out, waving a tablet. "3 more Dominion warships surrendered this morning. Seems they're not so tough now that nobody's afraid of them anymore." Star's colors rippled with satisfaction. The peaceful worlds, shamed into action by Earth's example, had finally united against the Dominion's bullying. But it wasn't their advanced weapons that were winning the war. It was the spread of ideas. Ideas about standing up for what's right, about protecting the vulnerable, about choosing to be kind even when it's dangerous. Dr. Tom walked out of his new xenolinguistics classroom, where he taught both humans and aliens. "Star, show them what came in this morning." Star gestured at the sky, her colors bright with excitement. A hologram appeared, showing a familiar set of stars. "We found it," she said softly. "My home world. The Dominion abandoned it when their forces started falling back." Mary stepped forward. "Does this mean, are you going to leave us?" Star's response was to hug her tightly. "This is my home now," she said, "but I want to help make my old world a bridge between Earth and the stars, a place where humans and Luminary can work together to rebuild." "Speaking of rebuilding," Robert added, checking his tablet again, "the first Earth ship is ready for testing. They're calling it the Star of Hope, named after someone we all know." Star's skin flushed with pink embarrassment, a color they'd only recently discovered she could make. The ship, built with help from their new alien allies, but powered by human determination, would be Earth's first official step back into the stars. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the farm as more families arrived for the weekly community dinner, a tradition that had started with Mary bringing Star her first Earth food in the hospital. Humans and aliens sat together at long tables, sharing dishes from a dozen worlds. General James, now Earth's representative to the Galactic Council, stood to make a speech. "5 years ago, we thought we were alone in the universe. Then we learned we weren't just part of a galactic community. We were the ones meant to help fix it." He raised his glass. "To Star, who thought she was finding refuge, but actually helped us find our way back to the stars." Star's colors danced with joy as everyone cheered. She looked around at the faces she had come to love. Mary's kind smile, Robert's protective watchfulness, Tom's endless curiosity. They were her family now, proof that bonds of the heart transcend species. Above them, the first stars were becoming visible in the darkening sky. Somewhere up there, the Dominion was learning what Star had discovered 5 years ago, that true strength isn't about weapons or technology. It's about having the courage to be kind, the wisdom to help others, and the strength to stand up for what's right. As night fell over the farm, the glowing plants and luminous alien children played among the fireflies, creating a light show more beautiful than any Star had seen on any world. She had fled across the galaxy looking for safety, only to find something far more precious, a place where being different wasn't a weakness, but a gift to be shared. She had found her way home. The end.